Welcome to The Romantic Side of Suspense with Sarah Hamaker. In each episode, she'll talk with your favorite romantic suspense authors. They will take you behind the scenes of the writing process, giving excerpts from their writing, and share stories about their writing life.
Hello and welcome to The Romantic Side of Suspense. I'm your host, Sarah Hamaker, and I'm so glad you joined me. This episode, you're going to hear about this month's new releases in Christian romantic suspense. I hope you will enjoy hearing from your favorite romantic suspense authors as they talk about the background of their latest books.
It's always a pleasure to talk to Darlene Elle Turner, and this time we're going to chat about Scent of Peril, her latest romantic suspense. So welcome back, Darlene.
Thank you again for having me, Sarah.
So this book, you have obviously a hero and a heroine. We're going to start with the heroine. And if she has or could have a pet, what would it be? And please tell us that pet's name.
Okay, so my heroine, her name is Taylor. She is a police constable, but she's a canine handler. So her favorite animal, of course, is a dog. So, and her dog's name is Shadow. But she's had some past traumatic drama in her life when it comes to dogs. She, her previous canine dog, they were out on a call and she didn't trust her dog's instincts. He was trying to lead her down a certain path, but she thought for sure the criminal was the other way or something, and it ended up she put herself in harm's way. So her dog had to basically save her, and in the end, he died. So he was kind of like, he took the shot for to save the girl type of thing. So that really left a traumatic mark in her canine career, but it really makes her more protective of her current dog, Shadow, and she trusts this dog implicitly with everything. So.
Yeah, that's good. Shadow, that's a great name for a dog. I love that.
It's a German Shepherd, too.
Yeah, love, that's even better. So what about your hero? What's his greatest fear in this story?
Okay, so my hero's name is Wyatt, and this series is all about the Hoyt family, so he's the Hoyt that's in this family. He is a conservation officer, which in the United States is the same as a game warden, just to give you a little context there. Mm-hmm. So his greatest fear is fear of failure, and that stems from he's got a huge family. And when he was younger, his little brother Kyle died. But what makes him feel that he failed was he sensed something was off with his brother, and he didn't quite make it home in time to save him, and his brother died. So that struck him as a failure, and it stuck with him throughout his life. So, and of course, at the end of this book, he has to face that fear head on and basically save Taylor from death. And so he has to face that at the end.
And what about your villain? Obviously, you mentioned that Taylor is in danger, so that means you have a villain. So what's your villain's motivation in this story?
Okay, so this story, my villain, his crime, he or she is a weapon smuggler. Okay, so basically, the villain is providing for the sister in the family. The father left them, and they were poor, so the villain felt that they had to step up, and that's why the villain is motivated to do what they do. So.
Okay. And the biggest challenge you don't have to, providing is good, but, doing it illegally, not so good.
Yeah, not so good.
Not so good. So what about the challenge? What was your biggest challenge in writing the book where you had it set? About the setting?
So my books they're all set in different provinces within Canada, and I've been to most of them. However, this book is set on Newfoundland, and I have never been there. So that was a bit of a challenge. So, of course, I had to study up and scour the internet for pictures of the landscape and that type of thing. So that was one of the biggest challenges in regards to the setting in this particular book.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is hard, and as as I've talked with other authors about the setting and things, it's always great when you can go there, but I don't know how authors before the internet really did it off, without traveling there authentically. Yeah. It must have been really much harder, but you can get so many pictures and firsthand accounts about this and that, so it does make it so that we can be believable. So so now you have to go to Newfoundland.
So true. I know. Yeah. Actually, I would love to go. It's one of the only provinces within Canada that I haven't seen. So yes, I've heard. Yeah,
so I'm sure it's on your list. I bet. Well, let's keep the focus sense of Peril. What was the hardest part of writing this book?
For me, it was writing the child's actions and dialogue. I don't have children, so it was kind of hard to put myself in the shoes of a 5-year-old. So I basically what I had to do at times was ask other authors, would a 5-year-old say this or would they say that? That type of thing. So that was a little bit hard. But I also made Levi, that's his name, very smart for a 5-year-old because he leaves clues to help Taylor and Wyatt find him. So he's learned a lot from his grandfather, Frank Hoyt, and his father. So, yeah, he's a very smart boy.
Yeah. Well, 5-year-olds can be wily. So, they really can. All right. So, can you let's close our short time together, Darlene, with what is the tagline for Scent of Peril?
An innocent witness taken, a canine in hot pursuit.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing about your book. Always been a pleasure talking with you.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
My next guest is Jennifer Chastain, talking about her latest romantic suspense, Guardian. So welcome back to my show, Jennifer.
Thank you for having me again, Sarah. I appreciate it.
So at the beginning of this story, how does your heroine feel about love?
Well, she definitely wants to be in love, but she's really afraid because she feels that if she loves someone, that they'll end up, as a result of her, they'll end up either being hurt or killed because of her past.
And what about your hero? What's his biggest regret in this story?
His biggest regret is really prioritizing work over relationships. So he's definitely a workaholic, and he's had relationships, but again, he's as a result of prioritizing work. He's lost relationships, but then he also feels like when he does get close to somebody, they end up getting hurt too. So we've got two with almost the same kind of wound there. Hers is a little different than his, though, because she had to testify when she was younger against a killer, a murder suspect.
Yeah, so what about your villain in this story? What is his or her motivation?
Ultimately, it's revenge, because he wants everyone to suffer as much as he suffered, or for the perceived wrongs that have been against him. I mean, he did go to prison, so he wants others to suffer just like he feels like he suffered by going to prison.
Mm. And what about the setting? What was the biggest challenge in writing the book and where you have it set?
Okay. This book takes place in a fictional town called Renegade, Colorado. So there's a lot of mountains. There's a lot of, the trees and all the different, even the birds are a little different than here over on the West Coast, on the East Coast. So everything is quite different than what I'm used to writing, especially with the mountainous terrain, and then throw in U.S. Marshals on top of that. And it really, there was a lot of moving pieces that I had to get right. And I was on Google all the time looking at, like mountain ranges and, weather. The weather was a big factor too. It's different than here in the South.
Right.
So it was very challenging because there was just so much going on, and then you've got a fictional town that was not my fictional town. I'm part of a group project with Sunrise. So, and so we actually had a series Bible that we're like, okay, this is this cafe or restaurant. This is where it's. We even had. They even came up with a map, to show us like in location where things were. So, but that series Bible was a big help, in pulling everything together. So we had all the names correct and all the highways and stuff like that. So it was.
Yes.
It was a lot.
Yeah, that does sound like you had to juggle a bunch of it. But apparently you did want to write this particular story. So what was it about this story that really drew you to write it?
Well, when they asked me to be part of this this project, Heroes of Renegade, they gave us a list of like 12 or 15 different story premises. And I really liked the one I picked was U.S. Marshal. He's grumpy, she's sunshine. There's a killer on the loose, and then I had to come up with like Prison Break, kind of like a cross between Con Air and The Fugitive, and a bunch of these other stories that, just kind of meshing that together, especially with, I'd never written a U.S. Marshal story before, so I wanted to try my hand at that, and we'll work on that aspect a little bit, but there's not a lot on U.S. Marshals because what they do is so secretive. Basically, you have a lot of liberty, dramatic liberty to do different things that they probably don't do, but you have to have certain procedures. I don't know what the procedures are. They won't tell you. So, I did read. I read a book by his name was Michael Earp, related to Wyatt Earp, the old gunslinger from the West, and he was actually in the Marshals, and he talked about the different just some different cases. So from that, I was able to pull some other stuff from that. But it was, I just like the idea of, okay, Old West, U.S. Marshal, coming to save the day. I guess that was basically, and then they wanted something else, and I'm like, well, if they have this, what would be a great idea would be to have like a big festival, like how the town was founded back in the 1880s and how the Marshals came to town. And I'm thinking, what better storyline than to have a reenactment of the original stagecoach, or Wells Fargo stagecoach robbery. So it's just like all these different things, and that's where a lot of the action takes place. And I'm like, I love a good festival.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that the truth? That is always so great. Well, your book sounds fascinating. Thank you for sharing. We're going to close, Jennifer, with what is the tagline for Guardian?
Sure. When your past refuses to stay buried, love becomes your strongest weapon.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing about your book today.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate it.
My next guest is Megan Short. She's going to talk about her upcoming romantic suspense release, Alaskan, Abduction, Target. So welcome back to my show, Megan.
Thanks so much. It's always such a pleasure to catch up with you, Sarah.
So in this story, which is like a tongue twister to say, say it really slow.
I know, right?
The two A's. I don't know what it is about that. But anyway, in this story, who is the most important person in your heroine's life?
I would have to say Phoebe Tate, who's my heroine. Her definitely the most important person is her 2-year-old son, Toby. He is the center of her world. She's recently widowed, so Toby is basically all she has. When he's threatened, she'll do whatever it takes to keep him safe. So even to come to this very remote Alaskan town in the middle of winter to try and find out why someone seems intent on keeping the circumstances surrounding a husband's death a secret.
Yeah, and what about your hero in this story? What is his greatest fear?
So Jock O'Halloran is one of my favourite characters, I think. He's appeared in my earlier 2 books just as a side character, but we get to know him a bit better in this one. His greatest fear is turning into his abusive stepdad. That really holds him back from Phoebe because he sees himself in Toby. And he was around Toby's age when his stepdad came into his mum's life, and he just never wants to put any child, especially this precious little 2-year-old, in the position that he was in.
And what about your villain in this story? What's his or her motivation?
As with most of my villains, this one's motivated by money. Basically, I have this one as a fallen human being who really is revealing the fallenness of human nature.
Yeah, and that greed can really drive people, as we see in the news every day, to do really horrible things. So, yeah, that is definitely a good motivation for a bad guy or girl. So what about I'm guessing the story is set in Alaska. So why did you pick this setting for this story?
So I love Alaska, and I feel like I've typecast myself in Alaska. I may branch out another time, but for this story at least, I wanted to sort of wrap up the town of Cordova in Alaska, which I really loved visiting, and that's where my first 2 books, Alaskan Police Protector and Trapped on the Alaskan Glacier, were set. So I wanted to give Jock his happy ending, and I just thought it's such a nice little community that I wanted to bring Phoebe into that community because she's so lonely. And I wanted also for readers to be able to catch up with the familiar characters. I mean, that said, this book is a standalone, so you don't have to have read the earlier books to enjoy it, but that's really the main motivation for the setting.
I love that. I love when we can kind of return and give our readers that familiarity of a place either we've created or we've set the books to. So that's really fun. Now, does your book have an underlying positive message? And if so, what is it?
Absolutely, yes. I try to always have a message that's based around a passage that I just have really been given by God. And this one was around the parable of the lost sheep. So I hope that readers will maybe read Luke 15 again and reflect again on that amazing assurance that we have whenever we stray from the Lord and Saviour, and we all do, that Jesus will come and rescue us. And not only that, he'll rejoice when we come back to him in repentance. So that's the positive message.
Yes, and it's such a wonderful reminder any time of the year of that. So it's always fun when we can infuse our books with that hope. So, yay, that's always good, always good. So we are almost out of time, Megan. So what is the tagline to Alaskan Abduction Target?
A pursuit for truth turns into a fight for survival.
Well, thank you so much. This sounds like a very exciting conclusion to that series, and thank you so much for sharing about it on my show.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm excited to welcome Virginia Vaughn to my show. She's going to talk about her novel, Deadly Homecoming Threat, in the Critical Threat volume of the Honor Bound Hearts collection. So welcome, Virginia.
Thanks for having me on, Sarah.
If your heroine has or could have a pet, what would it be, and what is the name of the pet?
Well, my heroine actually does have a pet in the story. She recently lost her canine companion, Axel, in the line of duty. She's a retired military officer. So in the story, she decides to adopt a pet from a shelter, and she adopts a shepherd mix and names him Ranger.
Okay. What is your hero's biggest regret in this story?
My hero's biggest regret is that he didn't stand up for my heroine while they were dating one another. He received a lot of pushback from his friends and parents who didn't like the match at the time, and it ultimately cost him his relationship with the heroine. Now he's gone into law enforcement, and he's learned to face confrontation and stand up for himself, so this time he's fighting for her.
I have a feeling he might win. So what about the villain in this story? Why did you make this particular person the villain?
Well, okay, the way that I write, I'm very much a pantser, and so I don't always know who the villain is right away.
Mm-hmm.
I write the story a lot without really knowing who the villain is, so actually any of the people that I put in the story could have been the villain. But I decided to go with this villain because it kind of circles back to my heroine's own insecurities from when she was a child. So that's why I chose this person to be the villain.
and I know we're just doing this on the phone, but I'm making the same symbol with my hand as you were talking about that, because that's the way I write too. I'm never quite sure who the villain is until all of a sudden I'm like, oh, it's that person.
Sometimes I surprise myself. Yeah.
Yeah. The fun of being a pantser. All right. So if it is a fictitious place you're setting, what did you base it on?
Well, it is a fictitious town. It's called Pine Haven, Mississippi. I am from Mississippi. And we have a lot of small towns here. So I didn't really base the town on any one place, but just kind of on small town Mississippi. I wanted to use that flavor of small town Southern life to enhance the story.
Oh, I love that. And what about the underlying positive message of deadly homecoming threat?
Well, in Deadly Homecoming Threat, my heroine actually fled her hometown when she was a teenager. And she's really been holding on to all this hurt and anger that she experienced at home that, sent her fleeing. And she really learns the lesson that she has to learn to let go of that and forgive if she really wants to move on with her life. That's the only way. Finding forgiveness and releasing that anger and hurt is really the only way that she'll ever be free.
That's such I think a really good message that we can all keep in mind. Yeah. Well, we're going to close our short time together with, what is the tagline of Deadly Homecoming Threat?
Okay, the tagline for Deadly Homecoming Threat is, the mission may be over, but the danger isn't.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing about your entry in the Critical Threat volume of the Honor Bound Hearts collection. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, I was glad to do it. Thanks for having me.
I am delighted to welcome back Elle to my show. She's going to talk about her entry in the Critical Threat volume of the Honor Bound Hearts collection. Her book is called Blast Radius. So welcome back to my show, Elle.
Thanks for having me.
So in this story, what lie does your heroine believe?
Oh, Riley believes that the safety of people and animals around her is her responsibility. She thinks that because of something that happened in her past, when her working dog was killed, that she is responsible for that death, and now she wants to try to protect everybody, and she thinks she's the only way that can happen is if she does everything perfectly. So that's the lie she believes.
Yeah, that is we all sometimes think we have more control than we do. That's a good one. So your hero in this story, what is his favorite pastime?
He likes to play the tenor saxophone. But for most of the story, he actually denies himself the pleasure of doing so. Because he blames himself for something, again, that happened overseas. He thinks that it was his fault, and he takes not playing his saxophone as a kind of penance so that he can earn back the grace that he's been given.
Yeah.
Very
Another
sad.
tough one. Well, so let's switch to your villain. What's one redeeming quality your villain has in this story?
He actually has a genuine desire for accountability for the people who covered up the thing that Evan is upset about. So his whole plot line is him trying to bring that situation to the light. He wants to bring it out so that everybody can see what about the buried lie and why it happened, and he just wants justice, and he's willing to sacrifice himself to do it.
Yeah. And so, what about the setting? Why did you pick this particular setting for this story?
I picked it because that's where the Navy EOD school is. I wanted it to be here in the U.S., but also on base. And Eglin Air Force Base is enormous, and that's where the Navy's EOD school is. So it made sense to set a book that involves EOD personnel on Eglin Air Force Base.
Yeah, that does make. Sometimes we do need to make sense with where we put people.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't just pick things out of the sky and create everything.
Sometimes we want to, though, don't we?
Yeah, we do. We do. We definitely want to. So what about the underlying positive message of this story? What is it?
It centers around the illusion of control, how sometimes we think that we have control over our own lives, but it's really a sovereign God that controls the outcomes, not us.
I love that. So we're going to close our short time together, Elle, with what is your book's tagline?
Oh, let's see here. I might have to read this one. To stop a bomber targeting Eglin Air Force Base, a dog handler and a bomb technician must trust each other and ultimately God.
I love it. Well, thanks for sharing about Blast Radius in the Critical Threat Honor Bound Hearts collection.
Thanks for having me.
I'm delighted to share with you my romantic suspense in the Honor Bound Hearts collection, Critical Threat, Fatal Recall. What lie does my heroine believe in this story? Nola believes she's unworthy of love. She was raised by much older parents who treated her as their personal servant, and after their death a few years before the story starts, she has struggled with overcoming a lifetime of inadequacies. She has very limited experience with men, and she thinks her time for falling in love and marrying are long past, so she's a little bit uncertain about how to react when the hero comes on the scene. What is my hero's first reaction in an emergency situation? As a former armor investigator, Patterson's first reaction in any emergency situation is to see who needs help and rescue them if possible. He doesn't wait for someone else to take action. He immediately jumps in and does what he can to remedy the situation. And in this case, it brought him into contact with the heroine. For my villain in this story, his motivation is one of the oldest in the book, greed. My villain feels they deserve to receive more than they have, and they have come up with a way to get it because they feel like they have done so much for their in their lives, and they believe that they deserve to have more than they do. No matter the cost, they're willing to pay it because they have it. Why did I pick this particular setting for my story? When I created the fictional town of Twin Oaks for Mistletoe and Murder, my Christmas novella I wrote in 2019, I set it in a small town in the Shenandoah Valley. Well, I wanted to set it in a actual town, but none of them, they weren't small enough, they weren't in the right place geographically that I wanted, so I created the town of Twin Oaks. What I didn't realize was how much I've grown to love this fictional town, its people, its quirkiness, its coffee shop, the Beanery, which appears in many of my stories. I know they're not real, but they feel real for me, and I'm delighted to return to Twin Oaks in this story. Both Nola and Patterson come to Twin Oaks to rest and begin to see Twin Oaks as a place where they can start the second chapter of their lives. And this is book 2 in my Twin Oaks Secrets series. What is the underlying positive message of the story? I love to include a very positive and hopeful message in all of my books. Both Patterson and Nola are older characters who fall in love, Nola for the first time. I enjoyed writing about characters in their late 40s, early 50s who experienced the headiness of first love. So one of the underlying positive message of Fatal Recall is that falling in love is possible no matter your age, and that God can bring two hearts together in any circumstance. The story is really about hope that God gives us about our present, and hope that for our future. And I'm going to close my time with you today with what is my book's tagline? Guarding her life may cost him his heart. I hope you'll join me and Virginia and Elle in Critical Threat, Volume 2 of the Honor Bound Hearts collection. And thank you for allowing me to share with you today.
Thanks for listening to The Romantic Side of Suspense with Sarah Hamaker. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review. You can sign up to receive notifications of upcoming podcasts and listen to previous editions at sarahhamakerfiction.com.